Senate will come to order. Mr. Carpenter, please call the roll.
Senators Aguilar, Baumgardner, Cook, Corum, Court.
Absent.
Crowder, Donovan, Finberg, Fields.
Absent.
Garcia, Gardner, Guzman, Hill,
Absent.
Olbert, John, Jones, Kagan,
Absent.
Kafalis, Kerr, Lambert, Lumberg, Marble, Martinez-Semenic.
Excused.
Merrifield, Moreno, Neville, Priola, Scott, Smallwood, Sonnenberg, Tate, Todd, Williams, Zinzinger, Court, Kagan, Hill,
Minority leaders asking for Fields to be excused.
Please mark Senator Fields as excused. So,
Mr. President.
here. With 33 present, 0 absent, 2 excused, we have a quorum. Senator Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Approval of the journal, Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the reading of the Journal of Monday, March 12th be dispensed with and approved as corrected by the Secretary.
You have heard the motion. Is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is adopted. Committee reports. Senate Services.
Correctly printed, Senate Bill 199, 201, 202, 203, 204, and 205. Senate Joint Resolution 8, correctly engrossed, Senate Bill 172, 175, and 180. Correctly revised, House Bill 1066.
Committee reports.
March 12, 2018, Committee on Business and Labor and Technology. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee following Senate Bill 183, be referred to Committee to hold a favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 12, 2018, the Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology has had on consideration had a hearing on the following appointments and recommends the appointments be placed on the consent calendar. Confirmed members of the Securities Board for terms expiring July 1st, 2020. Stevie B. Price of Denver, Colorado, to serve as a member of the public at large. Appointed Kent Jeffrey Lund, JD, MBA, LLM of Denver, Colorado, to serve as an individual who is licensed by the State Supreme Court to practice law in the state of Colorado and who is conversant in securities law. Appointed March 12, 2018, Committee on Business, Labor, and Technology. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee following Senate Bill 187, be amended as follows. As so amended, refer to Committee to hold a favorable recommendation, and a recommendation be placed on the consent calendar.
Mr. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege, a tribute by the good senator from Weld County.
The motion is for the Senate to proceed out of order for a moment of personal privilege by Senator Cook. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The aye and a half has it, and we'll proceed out of order. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request a moment of personal privilege for a tribute.
Granted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we have an arson dog with us and his handler. And let me read the tribute first. And it's convened in the second regular session of the 71st General Assembly. Hereby extends heartiest congratulations, commendations to the Colorado Arson Dog Program. 2018 marks the 25th anniversary of the State Farm Arson Dog Program and the 20th year that Colorado has had a dedicated arson dog. The program has significantly increased the ability of law enforcement to identify and pursue arson investigations. Each year, billions of dollars of property damage and hundreds of lives are lost due to arson-related crimes, and the investigation teams play a critical role in fighting these crimes. Therefore, the Colorado Senate provides the tribute to Colorado Arson Dog Team for the work these investigators do to make Colorado safer. On request of Senator John Cook, given this 13th day of March 2018, State Capitol, Denver, Colorado, signed by Kevin J. Grantham, President of the Senate. As mentioned in the tribute, the Senate recognizing the 25th anniversary of the National Arson Dog Program and the 20th anniversary here in Colorado. In 2010, the U.S. Fire Departments responded to nearly 261,000 fires that were started intentionally. These fires caused almost 400 deaths and $1.2 billion in direct property damage. Since '93, State Farm has funded the Arson Dog Program, resulting in more than 380 arson dog teams in 45 states. Since 1998, 8 arson dog teams have been placed in Colorado, and we welcome the 2 current teams to the capital today. An arson scene may take a human investigator days or months to investigate. An arson dog can investigate a scene in minutes. Another Colorado connection to the arson dog program is the National Fire Dog Monument in Washington, D.C., where Jerry Means and retired Canine Sadie won the Hero Dog Award in 2011. It sparked a discussion about recognizing the contribution of arson dogs and their handlers. The National Fire Dog Monument was created by Colorado firefighter and sculptor Austin Weasel. Austin is a firefighter with the Windsor Severance Fire Department. He is one of the youngest sculptors to have a monument placed in our nation's capital. So please join me in recognizing Mike Manzo, his wife Bonnie, and Holly, his canine. I have it on good authority that he will let you pet the dog if you like. So, welcome. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senate will be in a brief recess while we greet our most honorable guests. Senate will come back to order. Please add Senator Martinez-Humenick to the roll. Representative Sias will be added as the House sponsor on Senate Bill 174.
I'm taking it off.
Third reading of bills, consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the titles of all the bills on the third reading of bills, consent calendar?
Senate Bill 174 by Senator Gardner and Representative Sias concerning liability of entities that provide services to persons with developmental disabilities in residential settings. House Bill 1210 by Representative Foote and Senator Cook concerning peace officer status for the Administrative Judicial Security in the Colorado Judicial Department. House Bill 1050 by Representative Singer and Senator Fields concerning competency to proceed for juveniles involved in the juvenile justice system. House Bill 1233 by Representatives Duran and Lawrence and Senators Finberg and Gardner concerning a consumer reporting agency's placement of security freeze on the consumer report of a consumer who is under the charge of a representative at the request of the consumer's representative. House Bill 1066 by Representatives Willett and Foote and Senator Cook concerning clarifying that the Law Enforcement and Defense Council exemption for sexual exploitation of child crime does not change the discovery procedures for sexually exploitative material. Senate Bill 180 by Senator Gardner and Representatives Wist and Gray concerning the Colorado Trust Code.
Please add Senator Fields to the roll. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move all of the bills listed on the third reading of bills consent calendar consisting of Senate Bill 174, House Bills 1210, 1050, 1233, 1066, and Senate Bill 180.
Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? Are there any no votes on any of the bills on the third reading of bills consent calendar? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 174 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator John, Senator Kafalis, Senator Garcia, Senator Fields, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Jones, Senator Merrifield, Senator Fields, Senator Court, Senator Williams, Senator Todd, Senator Priola, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Kerr, Senator Donovan. Please add the president. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1210 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Scott, Senator Crowder, Senator Tate, Senator Kagan, Senator Moreno, Senator Todd, Senator Martinez-Humenick. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1050 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Moreno, Senator Kagan, Senator Williams, Senator Todd, Senator Court, Senator Fields, Senator Kafalas, Senator Aguilar. Co-sponsors on House Bill 1050. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1233 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator John, Senator Guzman, Senator Merrifield, Senator Moreno, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Tate, Senator Aguilar, Senator Jones, Senator Kafalas. With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1066 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator John, Senator Scott, Senator Moreno, Senator Crowder, Senator Garcia, Senator Todd, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Court, Senator Kafalas, Senator Kagan, with 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 180 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Cook, Senator Kagan, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Tate. Third reading of bills, final passage. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of the Senate Bill 171.
Senate Bill 171 by Senators Holbert and Williams and Representative Pabon Size concerning the creation of a test to determine whether a marketplace contractor that provides services on a marketplace platform is covered under certain employment-related laws.
Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 18171 on third read and final passage. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 171. Are there any no votes? Senator Moreno, Senator Jones, Senator Merrifield. With 32 ayes, 3 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 171 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Neville, Senator Scott, Senator Tate, Senator Priola, Senator Smallwood, Senator Gardner, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg, Senator Cook, Senator Marble, Senator Kerr, Senator Kafalas, Senator Donovan, Senator Aguilar, Senator John, Senator Garcia, Senator Hill, Senator Todd. Please add the president. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to House Bill 1045?
House Bill 1045 by Representative Singer and Senator Tate concerning the application of silver diamine fluoride to dental patients.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1045 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any further discussion? Motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1045. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, House Bill 1045 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Crowder, Senator Hill, Senator Smallwood, Senator Moreno, Senator Marble, Senator Neville, Senator Cook, Senator Priola, Senator Scott, Senator John, Senator Todd, Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of the House Bill 1117.
House Bill 1117 by Representatives Van Winkle and Coleman and Senator Tate concerning liens that attach to personal property that is stored at a self-service storage facility.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move House Bill 1117 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of House Bill 1117. Are there any no votes? Senator Moreno, Senator Jones, Senator Kagan, Senator Hill, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Gardner, Senator Cook, Senator Donovan, Senator Aguilar, Senator Garcia, Senator Marble. 23 ayes, 12 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused. House Bill 1117 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of the Senate Bill 11.
Senate Bill 11 by Senators Holbert and Kerr and Representatives Craft-Thorpe and Lundin concerning treatment of students who are excused by their parents from participating in state assessments.
Senator Kerr.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 11 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 11. Are there any no votes? Senator Priola. With 34 ayes, 1 no, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 11 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Aguilar, Senator Court, Senator Crowder, Senator Marble, Senator Smallwood, Senator Neville, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Scott, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg, Senator Gardner, Senator Merrifield, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator John, Senator Guzman, Senator Garcia, Senator Kafalas, Senator Fields, Senator Jones, Senator Williams, Senator Todd, Senator Tate. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of the Senate Bill 143.
Senate Bill 143 by Senators Van Berg and Corman, Representative Arden Wilson concerning measures to increase revenue for the Parks and Wildlife Division and in connection therewith setting certain hunting, fishing, parks, and recreation fees.
Senator Fenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 143 on third reading and final passage and ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Merrifield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a great bill. I just want to remind those who will be recipients of the benefits of this bill that the Pledge of Allegiance finishes with "and justice for all," meaning mountain bikers also. Therefore, I hope we'll get our fair share.
I think the Senate Secretary received her fair share of $5 out of your pocket for referring to me as Mr. Chair. Senator Hill.
Thanks, Mr. President. Last year, colleagues, we heard a much bigger bill on this in Finance Committee, and I just want to say a special thanks to David Lineweber, as a constituent, runs Anglers Covey down in, many of y'all have passed it, I'm sure, if you get on Highway 24 and you're heading up to through Woodland Park and you're going to go out to BV or Salida. David's just been a real champion on this, advocating very strongly, and I really credit a lot of my understanding of these issues to him and his advocacy. So, Mr. President, sure appreciate the chance to support a bill this year.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is adoption of Senate Bill 143. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 143 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator John, Senator Merrifield, Senator Aguilar, Senator Court, Senator Guzman, Senator Jones, Senator Todd, Senator Kerr. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of Senate Bill 172?
Senate Bill 172 by Senator Gardner and Representative Lee concerning testing of horse racing licensees for the presence of prohibited substances.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 172 on third reading and final passage.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 172. Are there any no votes? Senator Marble, Senator Neville. With 33 ayes, 2 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 172 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Guzman, Senator Crowder, Senator Todd, Senator Tate. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title of Senate Bill 175.
Senate Bill 175 by Senator Gardner and Representative Lundin concerning the prohibition against paid union activities by public employees.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 175 on third reading and final passage and look forward to the aye votes.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 175. Are there any no votes? Senator Guzman, you only get one. Senator Garcia, Senator Kafalas, Senator Fields, Senator Kagan, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Jones, Senator Moreno, Senator Aguilar, Senator Donovan, Senator Williams, Senator Court, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator Kerr, Senator John, Senator Fenberg, with 18 ayes, 17 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 175 is adopted. Co-sponsors: Senator Marble, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Neville, Senator Scott, Senator Priola, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg, Senator Coram, Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Hill, Senator Kerr, was that a co-sponsor on that bill? That wasn't a co-sponsor on this bill, Senator Kerr? Okay, just checking. Checking. Please add the president. Senator Kagan.
Mr. President, I ask that I be recorded as a no vote on Senate Bill 171.
We will have to do a reconsideration in order to do that. Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask to be added as a co-sponsor in House Bill 1045.
Please add Senator Aguilar as a co-sponsor on 1045.
You want to reconsider?
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Having voted on the prevailing side, I ask for the immediate reconsideration of Senate Bill 171.
The motion before the body is for the immediate reconsideration of Senate Bill 171. Correct?
Senate Bill 171.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Ayes have it, and we will move to reconsideration. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of the Senate Bill 171?
Senate Bill 171 by Senators Holbert and Williams and Representatives Pabon and Size concerning the creation of a test to determine whether a marketplace contractor that provides services on a marketplace platform is covered under certain employment-related laws.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Bill 171. Ask for an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? The motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 171. Are there any no votes? Senator Kagan, Senator Moreno, Senator Jones. With 32 ayes, 3 noes, Senator Merrifield will be a no vote on 171. Any further no votes on 171? With 31 ayes, 4 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Bill 171 is adopted. Co-sponsors, you're still on if you were already on. General order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general orders, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
Motion before the body is for the Senate to resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar. Senator Tate will take the chair.
The committee will come to order. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There has been a request to remove Senate Bill 184 from the consent calendar. So Senate Bill 184 will be placed at the end of the second reading of bills, general order, second reading of bills calendar. Senate Bill 184.
Thank you, Senator Holbert. Mr. Carpenter, please read the titles to all the bills on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar.
Senate Bill 56 by Senator John and Representatives Lee and Willick concerning monetary amounts and civil actions. Senate Bill 182 by Senators Corman, Guzman, and Representatives Catlin and Arndt concerning the authority to allocate a portion of the source market fee to statutorily authorized PERS funds. House Bill 1139 by Representative Hooten and Senator Zenzinger concerning the removal of outdated statutory references to repealed reporting requirements that were previously imposed on the Parks and Wildlife Commission with regard to its rulemaking authority to set fees. House Bill 1137 by Representative McKean and Senator Zenzinger concerning the scheduled repeal of reports to the General Assembly and in connection therewith continuing the requirements for reports by the Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Safety.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the remaining bills on the general order, second reading of bills, consent calendar consisting of Senate Bill 56, along with the committee reports from the Judiciary Committee and Finance Committee, Senate Bill 182, and the Agricultural, Natural Resources, and Energy Committee report, and House Bill 1139 and House Bill 1137.
Thank you, Senator. Is there any discussion on any of the committee reports on the bills on the second reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of the committee reports. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee reports have been adopted. Is there any discussion on any of the bills on the general order second reading of bills consent calendar? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of those bills. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bills have been adopted. Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion of the body is to rise and report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
Senate will come back to order. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee has met and had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee will likely leave the reports out on consideration of the following attached bills, being the second reading thereof, makes the following recommendations. Number one, Senate Bill 56 is amended. Senate Bill 182 is amended, passes second read order, and gross placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1139, House Bill 1137 passes second read order, revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 184 removed from the general order, second reading of bills consent calendar, placed at the end of the general order, second reading of bills calendar for 3/13/2018.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Motion for the body is the adoption of the report to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 56 is amended. Senate Bill 182 is amended, passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1139, House Bill 1137, Passed on second reading, order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 184 removed from the general order second reading of bills consent calendar and placed at the end of the general order second reading of bills calendar for 3/13/18. General order second reading of bills. Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of general order second reading of bills.
Motion for the body is for the Senate to resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general order second reading of bills calendar. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole for consideration of the general order second reading of bills calendar, and Senator Tate will take the chair.
The committee will come to order, and the cut rule is relaxed. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to lay Senate Bill 43, lay over Senate Bill 43 to Monday, March 19th at the sponsor's request.
The motion of the body is to lay over Senate Bill 43 until Monday, March 19th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill will be laid over. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title of House Bill 1158?
House Bill 1158 by Representative Hamner and Senator Lambert concerning a supplemental appropriation of the Department of Corrections.
Senator Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1158. Ask for a affirmative vote. Members, this is a supplemental for the Department of Corrections. It changes about 5 or 6 items. Let's see, 3 of them having to do with mid-year caseload. One of them goes all the way back to fiscal year 16-17. So this is actually an amendment to the long bill that we passed last year. We based the budget on forecasts. In this case, we have forecasts both from Legislative Council staff and Department of Criminal Justice, the Division of Criminal Justice in the Department of Public Safety. But as you'll notice, sometimes those are not totally accurate. So to true up the this year's fiscal year's budget, we go back and look at the latest forecast between now and the end of June and make these changes. As I said, part of this goes all the way back to 16-17 because the department moved some people around after the long bill was passed and before the end of that fiscal year. The rest of the caseload adjustments for mid-year caseload concern fiscal year 17-18 that we're in now. The medical caseload of offenders that are getting medical treatment increased by a little bit over $2 million. The first section that does not involve caseload is for additional food costs at the La Vista Women's Correctional Facility, about $172,000 to pay for additional food service costs, and there's about $156,000 for safety equipment, including radios and ballistic vests for correctional officers that were required during this fiscal year. So that's the bill, and ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Holbert. Any further discussion? Senator Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And members, I'm concerned about House Bill 1158. While I understand that we need to do a true-up, but my number one concern is that this true-up, from what I understand, occurred after the legislative session, and then the department spent the money, and now they're asking us for forgiveness. And so I would like to see the Department of Corrections take this out of their current budget. The bigger conversation is that there's a lot of numbers being thrown at us, talking about moving inmates around, the number of beds that are empty, the number that are needed in projections, to me, this is really a gray area that we don't have the facts on. And if we look at this, and if you saw the CCJRC report came out yesterday, there are movements. There is a trend in which women are being disproportionately affected by the number of inmates that are populating our prisons. And so I'm standing against this currently. I believe that this is one of the first steps at going back at privatizing prisons. And the privatization of prisons is being filled with minorities and women. And they're being affected disproportionately. I think this legislature needs to stop. I think we need to let the committee in which the governor signed an executive order on to stop, and let's look at these sentencing reforms. We do not need more prisons. We do not need more space. We need reforms. And so I'm going to ask you for a no vote on this particular piece of legislation until the committee has had an opportunity to vote, and that the Department of Corrections can get their numbers right. Each year, we look at more and more funding for the Department of Corrections. It's almost, the budget's up to almost $1 billion now. I think we need to hold the Department of Corrections accountable. I think that they need to have the numbers correct. We need to understand sentencing reforms, and we need to ensure that the numbers and the budget that they're requesting are the accurate numbers that we need, and we need to stop filling our prisons with women and minorities. So I ask you for a no vote on this piece of legislation.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? House Bill 1158, Senator Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I have the most tremendous amount of respect for my good colleague from Denver. But I do think we should vote yes on this bill. The points that the senator from Denver made are absolutely correct. We have to stop reacting to the excessive incarceration of particularly women, of particularly for drug possession as opposed to distribution, and resist the increasing numbers of people who are going into our Department of Corrections and being incarcerated. We do incarcerate too many people, and those that we do incarcerate, we incarcerate for too long, and those that we incarcerate are disproportionately minorities and increasingly women. That is a genuine problem, and we in the work group for prison populations are seeking to constructively address that issue. This bill, however, is simply resolving to pay the bills already incurred for the increased bed usage that we have incurred over the last several months. These things happen when you make projections. Sometimes the numbers of beds that you take up do increase. And this is, in some senses, a separate issue, but not completely separate from the matter of a more structural reform to reverse the trend towards ever-increasing prison populations. But we have actually already incurred these expenses for these beds. They were over the summer. We saw an increase. Yes, it's something that we seek to reverse, but we must, as good stewards of the corrections system, making sure that it's run in an orderly manner, making sure that we pay our bills when we incur them, we must actually, I submit to you, pass this bill to make sure that those beds that have been used are actually paid for, else our good faith and credit and our system will not fare well. So I urge an aye vote on this, and I urge your continued support as we move forward in the session to reduce the over-incarceration rate that we are having. Yes on this, support on the future bills coming up.
Thank you, Senator. Further discussion, Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I'm a strong no on this bill, House Bill 1158. One thing I believe I know for sure is that Colorado doesn't need to create more beds. We don't need to be opening up private prisons. We can't incarcerate ourselves out of this problem by incarcerating more people. There's got to be other solutions. It's my understanding that we have 400 beds right now, but yet we want to open up a private prison and allow state employees to operate in that private prison. Do you know that private prisons are on the stock exchange, which means that we have companies that are profiting off of people who have committed some levels of crime? And I understand that we do have an increase of crime, but you know what the crime is? Possession. Possession of a drug. That's what is causing the increase in our jails and our prisons, is possession. And if you are in custody or if you are in possession of a drug, then most likely you have an addiction. And if you have an addiction, then you need treatment. So what we need to be doing is coming up with some different types of programs to deal with drug addiction. Putting somebody in jail because of possession, there's got to be a way that we can give people treatment. There's got to be a new movement in the state of Colorado besides opening up private prisons. Really? Did you know that Colorado ranks 25th in all the states as relates to incarceration? We're number 25. And it seems like the only solution we have is to open more prisons and create more beds. And when we do that, we know that the impact is going to be in communities of color. We have to have better solutions. We need to have better drug policies in place. Some of these folks are stuck in prison 3 years. And then when they get out of prison, we make it even more difficult for them because they have all these fines and all of these other criterias that are in place, which makes it hard for them to find housing. It's difficult for them to get a job. We need to stop this pipeline into prison. We need to get this right. And the way we get it right is, first of all, making sure that we get our numbers right. It's my understanding, I've been down here for 7 years, and every time the Department of Correction is asking for more money. And they say that they're trying to true up. They're underestimating whatever's going on. I don't know who's doing the numbers, but they constantly come back, knocking on the door, asking for more money, more money, more money. I would like to see the money put into programs. I would like to see the money put into treatment programs. We don't need more prisons. And I know that we have prisons in communities, and you're looking at opening up these facilities because you might think it's about creating jobs for your community. Opening up prisons shouldn't be about employing more guards or trying to create jobs for people in your community. We need to keep people out of prison. In the state of Colorado, we do have a shortage as it relates to mid-level skill jobs. We need to be training folks. We need to be educating folks. A lot of the possessions of drugs comes from urban communities. But if you go to higher ed institutions, let's say it's Boulder, Fort Collins, or whatever, they're not sending those kids and those people to jail. Or if you live in a suburban area and you have possession, they're not sending those people to jail. It's in the urban centers. where we are breaking up families and destroying families. We have to find a better solution and movement as it relates to dealing with possession of drugs. And I don't think jails is the answer.
He's first.
I've been told that we have 400 empty beds in corrections. 400 empty beds. I've been told that we have 350 empty beds in community corrections. The Department of Corrections, what are you doing about the 400 empty beds and the 350 beds that are empty in community corrections? Seems like community corrections might be a good option for someone who's been convicted or charged with possession. Who is managing the budget in the Department of Corrections? Why is it year after year after year after year after year, you're coming and asking for millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars? And the justification in my mind is not clear. Yes, I'm going to use my inside voice, I've been told by the senator from El Paso County. So, with that in mind, members, we do not need to fund millions and millions of dollars to the Department of Corrections. They have enough money. Just like you manage your home, your budget, what you do is if you can't buy that new car or you can't buy that whatever you're trying to do for your home, you do without. I believe that we can still have a safe community. We can still address public safety and not have to create jobs to open up private prisons. That is not a good business model. I don't want Colorado to be known for profiting off of people who have possession of drugs. There's got to be a better answer. And the better answer is not giving millions and millions and millions of dollars to the Department of Corrections. Let's give that money to our schools. Let's give it to services. Let's give people the treatment that they need so they can transition from incarceration back to our society. Members, please vote no on House Bill 1158.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to support this true-up. Yes, I think we do have a problem. We have a problem with crime. Crime is on the rise. And a lot of the problems, I agree, is drug-related. But members, we had 66,000, I repeat, 66,000 opioid deaths last year. I may be wrong, but I don't think they bought them from the Girl Scouts.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I couldn't help but be amused at the speaker. You know, 1158, everything on this 1158 is already complete. All we're doing is putting a supplemental to pay for it. But it seems pretty amusing to me that we talk about what we are doing to create this problem. You know, I don't believe now's the time to be soft on crime. You know, I understand people in Metro Denver are pretty secure with the police force and whatnot. You live out in the border states. You live out south of Colorado, west or east, and see what this marijuana has done to this state. And the crime that we cannot control is just out of control. If you would go to these meetings that the governor called on this letter, you would learn a little bit about what's going on in the prison system and the overcrowding and the projection and who sets the numbers. There's 3 different entities that do that, and I'll leave it up to you to research that. But don't stand up here and say that what we need to be is weak on crime. Now is not the time. The Department of Correction has an amazing amount of programs for recidivism control. And that recidivism in the state of Colorado is some of the lowest in the nation. We are doing very well by our prison population, But the reality is the crime is being broken. Now, if you want to come up with new laws on pushing heroin or some of the more felonious crimes to soften the punishment for that, you're all welcome to it to see if you can do it. Disproportionately, I can't say right now what's disproportionate. I think if you look into the figures, it is proportionate. But the problem is the beds that we have. And I think that we need to take a hard look at this. And the choice is simple. Either you're going to be soft on crime or still hard on crime. What we have is people to protect. And it's our duty to do this in a very humane way. You know, I understand the situation with the prison in the state of Colorado. $857 million per year.
Oh, no, check that.
But it's our responsibility. But to say that, you know, there should be a reform such as probation, such as community corrections, you know, you got to be careful about what you're doing. You know, what we can do is we could make the situation a lot worse than it is. But I say that now is not the time to be soft on crime and vote yes for 1158, because these have already been spent. All we're doing is paying the bills. So if you want to come up here and harangue about don't spend the money, what do you suggest that we do with the bills that have been incurred that we need to pay? Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Crowder. Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I just want to be perfectly clear. I am a champion for public safety. I am a champion for those who have been harmed by crime. And so the senator that was just up here was talking about being soft on crime. I just wanted to be clear that I want to be smart as it relates to crime. If you commit a crime, then you have to pay the consequences that are associated with this. So my message on no on this bill has nothing to do with being soft on crime. I want to be smart as it relates to crime. And I think that what we need to be doing is that we need to be working upstream. We need to be working at an early age to prevent people from going into our prison system. We need policies that will reform and reduce our prison population. If the money's been spent already, shame on you. I can't do that with managing my household. I can't spend millions and millions of dollars. There's consequences when you overspend. You have to correct it. We have our schools that are operating with this negative factor. Maybe the Department of Corrections should be operating with a negative factor. What are you doing spending money that you don't have? In the state of Colorado, we're required to balance our budget. What are you doing overspending? Growing a department that this body has not approved. I think that's out of line. Private prisons, I don't care who's working inside of them, is a bad business model for the state of Colorado. We can't continue to overspend. This is not the first time I'm having this argument about the Department of Correction overspending. Using resources that haven't even been allocated. When is it going to stop? When is it going to stop? When are they going to be held accountable to manage within their budget? That's what I'm asking. That's what we all should be asking. And the question is, when are we going to get this right, that we're not coming back time and time again to give the Department of Corrections more money, more resources that have not been approved? I don't support opening up private prisons. Use the bids that we currently have. And the ones we already have are 400 empty beds in correction, and 350 beds in the community corrections. That's not about being soft on crime. That's about working within your capacity to be able to manage this issue as it relates to not having enough beds. If you need 250, and I just told you about 750 beds, let's be smart on crime. It's not about being soft. Let's not open another private prisons for state employees to have to work in them, to give more job opportunities. That's just not right, just because you have possession of drugs.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I share so many of the concerns raised by our colleagues from Denver and Aurora. I'm concerned about the overrepresentation of minorities in our criminal justice system. I'm concerned about the role of private prisons in our correction system. This issue was the topic of so much discussion and concern on the Joint Budget Committee. And I generally don't vote for additional capacity at the state's private prisons. I'll tell you what made the difference for me, though, in this supplemental, in House Bill 1158. Some of the additional capacity is, yes, paying for beds in private prisons that we're already using, but the other piece is that it'll relieve capacity at local jails. And we've heard time and again that our local jails are overcrowded, and it is creating a dangerous situation for local law enforcement. And if you want to talk about programming, the programming is nowhere near where it should be in local jails. That programming exists in our private prisons, it exists in our state prisons, it doesn't exist at that local level. So if you want to talk about outcomes for offenders, they're going to be better off under this supplemental. The other issue is, yes, there is so much concern about people being sent to prison for addiction. When we send someone to jail because they've had a third drunk driving arrest, or they've been sent to jail for drug possession, those are addiction issues. And we're not properly addressing those issues through mental health. Thankfully, colleagues, we're looking at this issue a little differently this year. One of the reasons why this supplemental is coming so far behind the rest of the supplemental package is because the House stood up and said, no, we won't just blanketly give more money to this department. We're going to concentrate on holistic solutions to this issue. How can we get at the core of why people are in prison and what we can do to rehabilitate them and get them ready for reintroduction into society? And I thank so much the House for making that statement and making that stand. So I'm hopeful for the direction of the executive order group, the prison working group, that what will come out of the deliberations that they're currently having. I'm hopeful that we'll be looking at this issue differently from now on, and I encourage your support for House Bill 1158.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to speak to some of the context of the prison study working group that we have been committed to, the senator from Arapahoe County, myself, and the one from Weld County. We have been committed to bringing about greater transparency, which I think is desperately needed in the state of Colorado, in understanding what this process is in forecasting and calculating what will be needed for the bed capacity in this state. And I think it can't be understated that we recognize that we as a state need to do a better job of understanding where's the best value of of taxpayer dollars in efficiency. I think there are many who could argue that incarceration for years and years and years is probably not the best method in which we should be finding maybe drug treatment options, other programs that could help supplement and ensure someone back to restoring them. And I look forward to our April 1st deadline in being able to make a recommendation not only to the General Assembly but also to the Governor's office on what that process looks like moving forward. But appreciate your understanding of how important this process needs to be in being transparent so that we can understand the future needs of the state of Colorado in regards to bed capacity.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on House Bill 1158? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of House Bill 1158. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1158 is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to Senate Bill 116?
Senate Bill 116 by Senator Cook and Representatives Williams and Van Winkle concerning the issuance of capital identification cards to members of the public to permit them entry to state buildings containing the legislative branch of state government without having to submit personal security checks.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 116 and the Finance Committee report and the Appropriations Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report from Finance, we had an amendment to say any fees must be at the actual level from CBI. They can't charge anything more than what it costs them. And basically, an applicant who fails her criminal history background check cannot get a refund. And that's the Finance Committee report.
Motion of the body is the adoption of the Finance Committee report to Senate Bill 116. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee report, what we did was we lowered the fee from $250 down to $100. And we allowed the Legislative Council, in the original bill, it said that they can use any excess money on anything they thought was appropriate. This says to promoting security at the Capitol complex.
Thank you, Senator. Motion from the body is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report is adopted. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have an amendment.
There's an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read Amendment L004 to Senate Bill 116?
Amendment L004 to Senate Bill 116 by Senator Cook, amend printable page 5, line 4.
Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this does, it makes the fingerprint background check every year as opposed to every 2 years. So anybody that wants the Capital ID card will have to go through a fingerprint check every year.
Any for... Oh. Senator Cook, if you could move L004.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L004.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on L004? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of L004 to Senate Bill 116. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and L004 is adopted. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What this bill does, it allows any member of the public to come into the Capitol building by getting a Capital ID card. They pay now a $100 fee. What they do is they submit a application to the Secretary of the Senate or the Chief Clerk of the House, and then they get a background check, a fingerprint background check every year. And with this allows them to not to submit to a search of his or her person or property as they come into the Capitol. It will actually, I think, reduce the workload on the State Patrol because now they don't have to screen everybody. This is the People's Building. We shouldn't have any obstacles for the people coming in here. I had a meeting last night with a good representative from the House, a Democrat, and she says, we were talking about this bill, and she said, you know what, we ought to get rid of the magnetometers altogether. She said we shouldn't have any obstacles for this building. People should be allowed to come in at will. And I don't disagree with that. But we do have security. That's a different issue. That's a different bill. And this will reduce the obstacle for people, frequent flyers. We have a lot of citizen activists that come down to this building who are down here a lot. Does it make sense that they have to go through security all the time? Does it make sense that our interns and our aides get one background check and they're allowed to bypass security at will? They're not checked. They're not screened. They have the same potential as anybody else of doing harm to anybody. And if anybody, and this is not a slight on the State Patrol. The State Patrol does a great job. They have a great, they do an awesome job with what they have to work with. It's not a slight on them. But if anybody thinks that this building is safe, you're misinformed, because this building is not safe. And since we're recorded, I'm not going to explain to everybody that might be listening on how or why this building is not safe. But we've all seen it. We've all let lobbyists or other people, friends, through the side doors, and that's a violation. But we all do it. I've seen it done many times. Probably most people in this chamber have allowed their friends and lobbyists and other people through the side doors without going through security. There are sideboards on this. The State Patrol, regardless of the background check, even if they don't have any criminal history, the State Patrol, the Secretary of the Senate, the Chief Clerk of the House can deny an application. And they can deny the permit. It's not a shall issue. It is, if they see something that they feel is unreasonable in this person's application, they can deny it. So we do have sideboards on this bill, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? Senator Court.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I have a problem with telling the people that they have to pay to come talk to us. That just isn't the way we should behave. And by saying that anybody who wants to come here regularly can bypass the security system if they pay, we are telling the public that it costs them money to come into their building. This building belongs to the people of Colorado. We are here to serve the people of Colorado. I think it is totally inappropriate to say, if you want to be able to bypass security to come into your building, to talk to your representatives, the people who are here to serve you, you're going to have to pay money. I don't like that concept. I completely understand the position that those who work here on a regular basis want to be able to bypass it. This would be a convenience for them. But I do not think that making this more convenient for lobbyists who are paid big bucks to be in this building, to make it more convenient for them at the expense of people who own the building, who are coming here to talk to us, is the right thing to do. I urge a no vote on this bill. I do not want to charge the people for coming in their building.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 116? Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just have a couple of questions. I did actually hear this bill in committee. I wasn't in committee, but I was in the room listening to it. And we've had this bill before. We've had this conversation before. Do we let a select group of people circumvent, and do we not? State Patrol was very strong that they advocate for the safety of each and every person coming in and out of the Capitol. So I think the question is, number one, is there going to be advertising so that anyone in the state of Colorado or out of the state of Colorado that happens to come to the Capitol can pay their $100 and get a background check, and they can sail through security? If that's the case, then I don't know if that was figured in here in terms of advertising, because once again, if we're going to give this benefit to some, it should be for all. And so my question is it being advertised, and is the fiscal note reflective of that? That's my first question. Second of all, listening to what State Patrol said, if indeed we have security, and I was at the Capitol when that was brought in. When I first started 14 years ago, we did not have security that you went through. You just came in. It was implemented because of a crime that took place in our Capitol. So when that happened, that was the decision. The legislature took a vote to instill security. That was given. And that was when it was implemented, and that was when it actually started. So I guess the question I would ask is two. One, are we advertising to the general public? You can pay $100 and sail through. And again, what does that advertising look like? What does that process look like so that all people are treated equally? And number two, is it time to no longer have security at the Capitol? Those are the questions that I ask. But again, I am going to ask the sponsor if he would address how the advertising is taking place for anyone to apply for this $100 sail through. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 116? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, colleagues, we've heard a lot about people being somehow, inconvenienced or whatever else. When you take a look at an opportunity to take a long line, and if you've been out there, if you get out and you take a look at the lines over the last few weeks on certain times of day and you see the number of people out there, if you were to ask the average citizen, say, we have an opportunity to take people that normally do business in here and provide for a pre-screening and a vetting, as this bill does, with strong guidelines, that would actually cut the line down. That would actually increase the speed of other people getting through. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. And we can talk about the posturing on this bill, and I don't think we should be talking about posturing. I think we should be talking about what is clear and efficient and having that opportunity. As far as advertising goes, we can make suggestions. Anybody that comes into line that's sitting there waiting in line, especially if they're waiting a long time, and after they've actually had to undress to go through checking, get rid of their belt buckles and all that good stuff, and then redress, and if people sit there and say they have a problem with it, maybe we need to ask the state troopers to say, hey, you know, there's another way around this. There's another way around this. If you'd like to go through the pre-screening process and everything else that entails, maybe you too, you have that opportunity to do that, whether you decide to or not. But colleagues, this is about reducing the delays. This isn't about increasing delays. This is about reducing delays to those and making sure that those people that we've already pre-screened actually go through. We do that in many areas. We already do that with aides and staff. Why we would not do that and offer that opportunity to other people that go through this process makes little sense to me. I urge an aye vote on 116.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on Senate Bill 116? Senator Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a no vote on Senate Bill 1116. For me, it's not about reducing wait times to come into the Capitol. It's about our security. It's about the security of our governor, his cabinet, and all the people that work in this building. It's about security. And I think that what we're doing by implementing a program that allow, let's say, our lobbyists to bypass security creates confusion. It's already very hectic when you come through security. Yes, the lines are long, but that's the price you have to pay if we want to work in a secured environment. Now, as you know, if you bypass security, you could probably conceal and carry. Do we want that? We were talking about earlier about how we shouldn't be soft on crime. Well, I don't think we should be soft on security. I have a memo here from the State Patrol. They say no. The people who are responsible for providing us with security every day, and also for the security of our governor, they're saying no, that this is going to create chaos, because the little thing that they're going to get is this little aluminum little thing. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little flimsy little thing that you're supposed to put on your lapel, and that's supposed to be an all-clear sign for you to come through the Capitol. They should have to go through security. They weren't elected like we were. That allows us the little privileges that we do have. They should go through security. And if the line is long, the line is long. And I think that is the price you pay to make sure that we are all working in an environment that's safe and secure. Just looking at the memo that we received from the State Patrol, why they don't like the bill, it interferes with their ability to provide a safe and secure environment for the governor, his first family members. I mean, that's serious. Why would we want to give people a pass? We have lobbyists that come and go. We have annual visitors that are here. It's just too much for them to be able to look for this little symbol that they have to have. I think it says here that it's going to increase situations where troopers have to split their attention. They have to split their attention from people coming through security and those who are bypassing security and looking for some kind of symbol that they've already been cleared. We work in a very emotional environment, and we need to make sure that our security and our troopers are focused on the people that they're trying to protect. And for me, I don't think we need to be splitting their attention. They need to be focused on our governor, the first family, the cabinet, and all of us here. So vote no on Senate Bill 1116.
Thank you, Senator. There's an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to, or read Amendment L005?
Amendment L005 to Senate Bill 116 by Senator Sonnenberg, amendment printable page 7 after line 2, insert E, any person entering the State Capitol building must go through security.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, if we're worried about security, every single one of us, governor's office, staff, aides, interns, state employees, everybody ought to go through security. If that's what we're really after here, secure the place. Support L005.
You want to move the amendment?
You would like me to do that, wouldn't
You don't have to. I'm just wondering.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L005.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L005? Senator Jones.
Well, I'm kind of torn on this one. I guess it would make sure nobody carried concealed into the Capitol.
Any further discussion on Amendment L005? Seeing none, the motion from the body is the adoption of Amendment L005. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the amendment from the good senator from Sterling. However, I request a minute on a bill title ruling.
We'll be in a brief recess as we evaluate the amendment and the bill title. Committee will come back to order, and the chair has ruled that the amendment does not fit under the bill title. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the effort, and I don't necessarily disagree. Why should we be exempt from coming into this building and not go through security like everybody else, like the people of our constituents? We force them to go through it. Why shouldn't we have to go through it? We allow our aides and interns to bypass it. Why shouldn't they go through it? So I appreciate the effort, but I believe nothing will get done until legislators have to start complying with some security issues. Then something will happen on this. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I had a great idea. I had an amendment that I was going to run, but with your last decision of that not fitting under the title, I thought the simple solution here is to keep security, if that's what we want. I question whether we should or not, because if I go to JBC, I don't go through committee. I go down the street to DNR, I don't go to security. A lot of the places that the People's House, we do not do. But I think the solution might be, and I'm sure it won't fit under the title, so I won't run the amendment, but actually move the legislators back into this building, where all the legislators are in this building. The lobbyists, those that work here, that, as the good senator from Denver says, make a lot of money, they can come in the morning, they can go through security. If they want to leave for lunch, they can do that, they can come back, but they're not running back and forth across Sherman Street 16 times a day. Maybe that's what we really ought to be thinking about, is putting the legislators back in the business here, because frankly, I don't think it's been good for morale. There's a lot of the people that are across the street that never make it over here, other than they're on the floor and they go back across the street. They don't get to know the people they're serving with. So I think it's a great idea, but I will not offer the amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I could not agree with the senator from Montrose more. I think the place, having everybody in a single building really helps us get to know one another and helps the process. So I agree. I was against the move in the first place.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I enjoy getting fresh air. I serve on 4 committees over here, and I have an office that is across the street. I like an opportunity to get out. I spend a lot of time over here, and we definitely know how to get hold of each and every one. And frankly, if people have to move around a little bit, that's probably not a bad thing for most of us. We could probably do a lot more moving around. It would probably be good for our health. So I'm not looking to be packed into one building. But of course, that's not my decision. That's the decision of the president.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I wasn't going to come down and talk today. But in my indoor voice, I just wanted to say, you know, members, when I first came to the Capitol in 2007, Senator Jean will remember, Senator Sonnenberg will remember, Senator Jones will remember from before. Looking around the room at others who might conceivably remember, Senator Lundberg, Senator Lambert. If I keep saying names, everybody will start throwing their hand up because they'll think we're doing no votes or co-sponsors. Members, the reason I list off these folks, because if they will search their memory, there was a time when we used to just walk in this building. The senator, and I'm sorry for using everybody's name, I would have to, yes, the senator from metropolitan, urbanized, very populated Denver. We just walked into the building, and we had a very long, heated and emotional debate about whether or not we were even going to have metal detectors in this building. And the precipitating event was a very emotional and tragic event in the summer. I think, if I recall correctly, it was the summer of 2007 when there was an attempt on Governor Ritter's life. And a member of State Patrol was able to stop that, but he had to take the life of the attacker. And why do I tell this story? Well, I voted for the funding of metal detectors at the time, and I have regretted that vote ever since. And maybe it's in the category of things you have to do or feel like must be done that you nevertheless regret, because our capital has become harder to access for citizens, much, much, much harder, particularly for citizens who want to come every day, people who are here every day, people who frequently are here. Difficult for former members. You know, I would support, and that is not this bill, but I would support a bill to just do away with it one more time. And everybody would do as they did on that day, argue that we're all unsafe and we're all unsecure. And you know what? You know, I don't have metal detectors at my town hall meetings, and I don't have security out front of my house, and I don't have all of that. But we have created with those metal detectors down there a barrier between us and the citizens. Now, there's two ways we could deal with that, maybe three. One is we could do away with it altogether, but I think I won't get the support to do that. And I may go through that agonizing decision one more time about whether or not we need security. We could, to sort of remove the barrier, but it wouldn't be easy on anyone. We could say, let's not make a difference between us and the citizens we represent. Let's all go through security every day. Or we could do this bill, which is a reasonable bill in a situation that is the world in which we live. And that's the reason I'm supporting the bill. So this was an emotional topic when it was first heard in 2008. So members, think hard about it. There are no good solutions, but this bill is a solution for those who frequent the Capitol a lot, who go between here and Colfax back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And, you know, taking your belt off and holding your pants up. For the ladies who have to empty all of their purse and everything else, every time they come from my office across the street back into the Capitol, it's just kind of untenable when there could be an option. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like the senator from Jefferson County, I like fresh air. That's why I live where I do. But running back and forth across Colfax, I don't enjoy. I don't think I need the exercise because we already have a great exercise program in this building. There is so much jumping to conclusion and flying off the handle that we need to do nothing else.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? Senator Martinez-Jimenez. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 116? Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did have some closing remarks, but I think everything I had to say has been said by the people here. So I would just reaffirm and ask for an aye vote on 116.
Any further discussion on Senate Bill 116? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 116. As amended, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no? No. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title to House Bill 1138?
House Bill 1138 by Representative Martin, Senator Zinzinger, concerning standardizing public official oaths of office and in connection therewith providing uniform oath text and establishing requirements for taking, subscribing, and filing public oaths of office.
Senator Zinzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move House Bill 1138 and the committee report.
To the committee report.
There were 3 amendments that were done up in committee. The first one was a technical amendment around gender-neutral language and ensuring that we are consistent with a prior bill that was already enacted. We also restored the text of the oath to the way that the bill was intended by the Statutory Revision Committee with regard to swearing or affirming in the text. And then we had a technical change for the Special District Association that allows the body or any officer thereof in order to administer the oath.
Any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of the committee report to House Bill 1138. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report's adopted. Any further discussion on House Bill 1138? Senator Zenzinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill is a statutory revision committee bill. Right now, there are various oaths of office that are scattered throughout our statutes, and this bill standardizes them and will bring them into alignment.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1138? Seeing none, the motion for the body is adoption of House Bill 1138. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title of House Bill 1012?
House Bill 1012 by Representatives Becker J. and Lontine and Senators Lundberg and Aguilar concerning vision care plans for eye care services.
Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We move House Bill 1012 and the Health Committee report.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The committee report simply changes the day on which the bill becomes enacted, and we'd ask for an aye on the Health Committee report.
Any further discussion on the committee report? Seeing none, the motion from the body is the adoption of the committee report to House Bill 1012. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The committee report's adopted. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief on the front end here at least, and that is to simply say that this is a bill designed to add a little more transparency to how things are function with vision care plans, and I would ask for an aye vote.
Any further discussion on House Bill 1012? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of House... Oh, there is. My apologies, Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, members, I'm going to ask for a no vote on House Bill 1012. And those in the Health Committee that had a chance to hear the bill, hopefully you've had a little bit of time to think about what this bill does, perhaps change your vote here on the floor on this bill. So what this bill does is it gets in the way, has government get in the way of contracts between vision insurance companies and eye doctors, which is kind of the theme of bills that we've been hearing now for the last 2 years of somehow the providers are more important than the patients. So if you remember back in the late 80s, early 90s when PPO plans were first created, because remember in the 70s and the 80s there wasn't such an animal, these things came out called preferred provider organizations. And they were it was a pretty significant event in the world of medical insurance. So with these PPO plans, what insurance companies did was they went out to a smaller number of medical providers, whether those are doctors or hospitals, and they sort of cut deals with those doctors and hospitals. So again, it was a smaller number. Those physicians or facilities were designated as preferred providers. And for you as the patient, if you were willing to see a doctor on this list or a hospital on this list, you were rewarded with better benefits, discounts on your services, and lower premiums, right? Your rates went down. So we went from a world in the 70s and 80s, which were dominated by traditional insurance plans, to very quickly, 15 or 20 years later, a world where everybody wanted one of these PPO plans, which eventually turned into HMO plans. And the idea of traditional insurance today, because of that, is almost dead, because as consumers, whether we're buying individual insurance or group insurance, we've decided that it's a better deal for us to have one of these insurance companies cut these special deals with providers so that for us as consumers, it's a better plan. Okay? And it was a good thing. We liked it and we wanted it. Now what we're hearing in committee are bills that these PPO plans are bad, that the insurance companies are monopolies, and they're forcing these providers into these kind of contracts. So what we should do instead is not allow these to happen anymore, not allow the insurance companies to negotiate to the best of their ability to get better things for us as patients. The dentist bill was a great example of one. When I had a dental plan 2 years ago, I would get discounts on things that weren't covered by the dental plan, which was awesome. I can get a discount on teeth whitening, not covered by the dental plan, but I get a discount. That's a great thing as a patient. I can get discounts on orthodontia for my kids. Maybe I'm on a dental plan that doesn't allow for orthodontia, but now I get a discount on orthodontia. For me as a patient, that's a great thing. I love it. Now we're moving into vision insurance. And what this bill would do is prohibit the plans from doing that kind of negotiation. So if the plan, for example, doesn't cover, I don't know if any of you have anti-glare coatings on your glasses, anti-scratch coatings on your glasses. Maybe you want a second pair of prescription sunglasses so that you've got a prescription pair when you drive. If the plan doesn't cover that, you as the patient are now robbed from these discounts. Why? Why would we do that to patients and consumers when all of us come down here and talk about how what we want to do is benefit the consumer, what we want to do is benefit the patient, and that here's another bill that says that we can't do this? And remember, we're not even talking about medical insurance anymore. Medical insurance where in 24, 48 hours, an American can literally be bankrupted, right? Doesn't take very long to rack up $100,000 worth of bills anymore. Who was the last person that you talked to who was facing bankruptcy because of their visit to the eye doctor? Or because of eyeglasses that they needed? Or contact lenses that they needed? So really for the patient, we're taking away all of the goodies for what purpose? So that every eye doctor gets to be on every plan, and every dentist gets to be on every plan, and every doctor gets to be on every plan. That defeats the purpose of a preferred provider with special deals and special discounts. Colleagues, this is not a monopoly. There's not a monopoly of medical insurance companies. There's not a monopoly of dental insurance companies. There's not a monopoly of vision insurance companies. In committee, we asked the question, well, what's the right number for it to not be a monopoly? Right now, there are 5 that I'm looking at right now that have decent market share in the state of Colorado. If there were 1, I could see it being a problem. But in committee, they said if there were 50, it'd be very difficult for the providers to even manage dealing with that many networks. Other thing I want you to remember is that with vision insurance, unlike an HMO medical plan, for example, there are out-of-network benefits in almost all of these vision plans. So it's not a matter of if as a patient you don't see the eye doctor that's in network, you're just not covered at all. That almost never happens. You're still covered. You still get a reimbursement for an exam. You still get reimbursement for lenses. You still get reimbursement for frames. You just don't get as much. Maybe it's a little bit different because, again, those providers give those discounts. So what I would hope is that you'd reconsider on House Bill 1012 to vote instead for the patient, to vote instead for the consumer. This is a really disturbing trend that I'm seeing in my short period of time here, where we're now looking at the providers as being more important than the patients. So I'd respectfully ask for your no vote on House Bill 1012.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion? Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This actually is about the patient. Unfortunately, the way this works is, and my colleague talked about the special deals and the special discounts, but if you're in a rural area of the state, your special discounts apply to those that are included and have negotiated those special districts, which aren't your local guys. And so we go to our local eye doctor, and that local eye doctor also, as part of his practice, so we can keep him in rural Colorado, sells glasses. Tries to make a one-stop shop all in rural Colorado. What these special deals do is eliminates their ability to do that. They have to buy glasses specifically from a third member or somebody like that that's approved by an insurance company. Let me just suffice it to say it's something like this, and I'll give you the real-time example, and it's not just eye doctors, it's medical. When it comes to medical insurance, my son went on the exchange looking for medical insurance for him and his family. And on that exchange for one specific plan that had this list of doctors in the network, $1,600. But if he changed the address and used my address that I stay at in Denver, for the same plan, the same list of doctors, it was $1,200. So this is about the patient. Quite frankly, this is about dealing with everybody equitably. That's why I support this bill. I've actually carried it the last couple of years. I wasn't going to come to the well and talk about this, but I wanted people to understand the disparity, the differences between how these are implemented in urban settings when you have choices and everywhere else where you don't. That's why I asked for your yes vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Crowder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did hear this in committee, and I strongly supported it. I felt it was a bill for the consumer, especially in rural Colorado. But I think it affects even metro area too. So I thought that, you know, there is a trend to get more people covered out of network, and I thought this is the way to go about it. So I applaud the sponsors for bringing this forward, and I completely support it, but I would ask you for your vote yes on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on House Bill 1012? Senator Smallwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, no disrespect to my friend from Sterling, but we're not talking about medical insurance and medical insurance rates. We're talking about vision insurance that is unlikely, if not impossible, to cause anybody financial harm, significant financial harm. And remember, not being in the network doesn't necessarily mean anything to the patient other than you lose out on the goodies and on the discounts. So if you're in rural Colorado and you're a great optometrist and you've got a great practice of selling glasses and lenses and frames and contact lenses, and you think the deal that's coming from the vision insurance company is lousy, guess what? Don't sign the contract. There's no law that says you have to sign the contract. It's vision insurance. We're covering eye exams and glasses and contact lenses. If you don't like the contract, don't sign the contract. And your patients can still come visit you. And in almost every circumstance, there's still going to be some coverage from those vision insurance companies, even to out-of-network providers. So you're not putting up some kind of wall that says you can't go see them anymore. And quite honestly, if you're a great provider, your patients are going to come see you anyways. I see a dermatologist in Littleton. This dermatologist, board-certified guy, great guy. See him every year, make sure I don't have skin cancer. he decided a couple years ago that he was fed up with insurance companies and their ridiculous contracts. So guess what he did? He's off of all of them nowadays. He didn't take any insurance plans. Guess who's still his patient? This guy. Because he's great, and I still want to see him. And does it cost me a little bit more? Maybe. But if he's good enough to merit that kind of behavior from his patients, that's what he's going to get. So again, I appreciate the thought of rural Colorado here. Candidly, I can't connect the dots. I don't know why a great eye doctor in rural Colorado is any different from a great eye doctor in urban Colorado. In fact, maybe even more so. The guy's great in rural Colorado. She probably has more pull, fewer competitors. So again, I would one more time ask for a no vote on House Bill 1012.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Sonnenberg.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the story of my colleague and about his dermatologist in Littleton because he has options in Littleton. Here's how it works. If the eye doctor in Fort Morgan, Colorado doesn't sign that contract, the patients go somewhere else. So he's held with a gun to his head and say, do you want to stay in business? If you want to stay in business, you will sign the contract with us and provide these services for this amount. And they don't have the option. Now, sure, he can say, no, I'm not going to do that. And yes, they're great eye doctors, but when it comes right down to it, in rural Colorado, when you have the limited funds that many of the families do, you try and figure out what option is best for you. And if it's covered by insurance somewhere else and you have to drive to Denver or Greeley or Fort Collins because you only have one or two vision insurance plans offered in rural Colorado, if you have to go to Denver, Fort Collins, because that eye doctor did not sign the contract, it becomes a challenge for him and the families. Now, if you truly have a pool, if we truly have a pool that we're spreading the risk on, the risk should not be weighted on vision depending on where you live. And yes, I talked about health insurance as well as vision insurance because, quite frankly, I'm not sure the actuaries and the people that actually do the calculations look at it any differently. I'm just trying to explain to you that the option, because you have a great eye doctor and you make the average income in that community, you may not be able to go to that eye doctor if you can't be covered by your vision plan and you need glasses or contacts or whatever else you may need, because you have to order them through the vision plan that was signed onto with a gun to your head because you have no other options. That's why I support the bill. Ask for you to just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Senator Hill.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, the senator from Douglas County brings up some important points, and I have much respect for his understanding, his view on the healthcare system. One of the challenges, he's right, one of the challenges that we have created in government is that we have poured government rules and regulations when we talk about healthcare largely into the insurance side. We have not, and this is widely recognized. It's recognized in the literature, whether it's the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, whether it's much of what we've done here with the exchanges. We have regulated and we have managed insurance plans, and that has been our approach. And what I contend and what I continue to contend is that the more we focus on insurance and not on the relationship between a patient and a provider, the more we actually undermine the trust the responsibility, the quality of care, and the ability to privately contract for healthcare services. Not contract for insurance, but contract for healthcare services. So the senator from Douglas County is right, and I respect it, and it's a challenge to get up here and say we're interfering in contracts. We are interfering in contracts, and we have interfered for a long time. Hopefully this interference is to restore some of that relationship, to restore some of that connection between the patient and the provider. Now, what we were talking about here is not all just insurance policies, but we're talking about a provider, an optometrist, selling eyeglasses, not covered under a plan, not being reimbursed by an insurance company, but that relationship between the optometrist and the patient. And right now, the way these contracts are working, these contracts of adhesion for these other areas, is that an insurance company can set the rate by which that optometrist can charge for those eyeglasses. Now, I understand that is a contract that they have willfully signed on to, but I also understand that if we're serious about empowering both the patient and the provider, there's this thing called a market. There's this thing called competition on price, and competition on quality, and competition on relationship, and economies of scale, and all that goes into that. And right now, we have precluded any of those advantages. We have taken away those advantages and the ability of an optometrist to say, I am going to structure my pricing, I'm going to structure my services, and make decisions for what we're going to charge for that. We have taken away the ability for the patient and the provider to privately contract what they are going to pay for services that are outside of these plans. And for that area, I think we've actually done a disservice, both to the provider and to the patient. And so I do think it's a little bit unfair. Yes, it is right that it's true that we are interfering in this contract, but it is unfair to say that we are doing so to the disadvantage of the consumer. In this case, I would say the best advantage to the consumer is the right to privately contract with the optometrist that you choose, that provides services at a price that they choose. And through this process of liberal markets, of free markets, of price and competition, we actually have a much better opportunity and provision of services and product for the consumer. So for that, I understand the tension. I understand the challenge that we face in this debate. But the decision here is whether or not we are going to allow the patient, our constituents, and the provider, the doctors, our constituents, to contract between themselves without government and without the insurance markets interfering in that relationship. And so for that reason, I'll certainly be supporting this bill.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We've had quite a bit of debate on this subject, and it's an important subject that has been concerning many people for some time, and I trust that we can pass this bill that actually went through many iterations in the House as they tried to determine what would and wouldn't work. But I want to add this one element here. I initially said it provides more transparency, and what I mean by that is it provides more clarity to the consumer because it does put some guardrails on what these contracts can do and not do. And I recognize the dramatic difference between a rural setting where you may have one provider who is pretty much forced into this arena, and therefore, and guess what? They're in business. They have to find a way to make it work, and if the contract requires them to do some lost leaders in there, well, they've got to make it up somewhere else. I'd liken it this way, because yes, the state of Colorado establishes what contract law means, and there are times you have to balance some of the factors. It's like between, we've had a debate down here quite often on the general contractor and the subcontractor within construction systems, where the general contractor has a contract that requires unreasonable liabilities for the subcontractor, and we need to step in and say, whoa, wait a minute, this isn't working for all the parties concerned. Well, that's the same case here. It isn't working for all the parties concerned, and we've gone through a pretty extensive process here in the legislative system so as to carve out the unreasonable components. We've come up with what really works best for all concerned. I urge an aye vote for House Bill 1012 for the people of Colorado.
Thank you, Senator Lundberg. Any further discussion on House Bill 1012? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of House Bill 1012. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. It's one of the loneliest no's I've ever heard. House Bill 1012 passes. Mr. Carpenter, please read the title to House Bill 1196.
House Bill 1196 by Representative Exum and Senators Todd and Martinez, 2 minutes, concerning authorization to verify the disability of an applicant to the Aid to the Needy Disabled program.
Senator Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we move House Bill 1196 and the Health and Human Services Committee report.
Is there any discussion on the Health and Human Services Committee report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Senator Todd.
with the committee report, what we did is we omitted 2 words, or certified, which means on page 2, line 13, that it is licensed any other, I'm sorry, I've got to read this from, any other licensed health care. And so we just omitted certified.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on the Health and Human Services Committee report? Seeing none, the motion for the body's adoption of the committee report to 1196. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the report's adopted. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1196? Senator Martinez-Jimenez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House Bill 1196 is going to allow licensed psychologists to verify that an individual has a disability for the purposes of Colorado's Aid to the Needy Disabled program. And it provides just $189 per month to individuals that cannot work due to a severe physical or mental disability. This program exists to provide some support to Colorado's most vulnerable while they are working to get approved for Federal Supplemental Security Income, or SSI, and once a recipient is approved for SSI, the state is reimbursed for all payments made to that individual. So the bill is about increasing the efficiency and accessibility of the application process and the bill does not extend eligibility, but it does increase the efficiency and accessibility in the application process for these folks.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on House Bill 1196? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of House Bill 1196. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is adopted. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read House Bill 1103?
House Bill 1103 by Representative McLaughlin and Senator Quorum, concerning the ability of a local government to require a driver to meet safety standards for the use of an off-highway vehicle.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move House Bill 1103 and the committee report.
Is there any discussion on the Transportation Committee report? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of the committee report to House Bill 1103. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee report's adopted. Is there any further discussion on House Bill 1103? Seeing none, the motion of the body is the adoption of House Bill 1103. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and House Bill 1103 passes. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the title of Senate Bill 184?
Senate Bill 184 by Senator Quorum and Representatives McKean and Escar, concerning a new permit for the short-term extraction of construction materials.
Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Senate Bill 184.
Thank you, Senator. There's also an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read Amendment L001 to Senate Bill 184?
Amendment L001, Senate Bill 184 by Senator Kagan.
Senator Kagan.
I move Amendment L001.
Is there any discussion on Amendment L001? Senator Kagan.
L001, I urge its adoption. It requires, before one of these special use permits is granted, that the permit applicant post a sign, let the neighbors know that they're applying for the permit, and on that sign it will tell you if you object to the permit, you can contact the Department of Natural Resources, and it gives the surrounding neighbors a say in whether or not the permit is issued. I urge an aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Quorum, L001.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would actually be opposed to L001. Members, there may be some confusion as to what this bill actually does. This bill is for a farmer who is going to dig a pond, and he has excess material, and so he can sell that material. This is not going into a full-fledged construction. It is digging a pond for water storage, and I'm totally confident that the Division of Mining Safety will handle this with all the rules and regulations necessary. So I would be opposed to L001.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion, L001? Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I too oppose L001. It's basically an interference of private property rights from an individual standpoint. We do have pieces in place to oversee any of these processes, but to expand that and actually allow for interference, I don't think it's a neighborly thing or a smart thing to do. And again, private property rights should be private property rights. So I would urge a no vote on 001.
Thank you, Senator. Any further discussion on Amendment L001 to Senate Bill 184? Seeing none, the motion from the body is the adoption of L001. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. The noes have it. The amendment is lost. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 184? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Senate Bill 184. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Senate Bill 184 is adopted. Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee rise and report.
The motion before the body is to rise and report. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the committee will rise and report.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee met, had a number of bills under consideration. Mr. Carpenter, will you please read the report?
Mr. President, your committee holds lead reports that under consideration the following task bills being second reading thereof makes final recommendations around Senate Bill 116 is amended Senate Bill 184 passes second read order and gross placed on the counter for the reading and final passage. House Bill 1158, House Bill 1138 is amended. House Bill 1012 is amended. House Bill 1196 is amended. House Bill 1103 is amended, passes second read order, revised and placed on the calendar for the reading and final passage. Senate Bill 43 laid over until 3/19/18 or is placed on the calendar.
Senator Tate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the report.
Motion for the body is the adoption of the report to the committee of the whole. There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read Amendment 1 to the committee of the whole for Senate Bill 184?
Committee of the whole amendment 001.
Senator Kagan.
Mr. President, I move the Kagan amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole Amendment 001.
To the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I urge vote yes on the Committee of the Whole Amendment 001. It requires provision of a notice to anyone, to adjacent landowners before a special use permit is granted and gives them the opportunity to object. I urge an aye vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment 001? Senator Quorum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask for a no vote on this. I think this is a common sense thing that we should look at. It is not a major construction job. It sets a new program set under a 111, 1B, I believe it is, and it's for that farmer who is out there going to excavate for that pond. He has excess material. The neighbor wants to buy the material. It gives him the opportunity to sell that material, and this is not an ongoing construction job. This is a neighbor being neighborly and doing the right thing. Ask for a no vote on the count.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Crowder. Thank you, Mr. President. You know, I think there's a misconstrued on this bill. This has been plaguing us in rural Colorado for a lot of years. We can't even build a pond to actually collect rainwater for livestock drinking. And this is what I thought this bill was about. And I think, I think I'm pretty accurate in what I'm saying, but I think that this bill should be done. I think that, it's high time that we, the ranchers and farmers could actually dig a hole on their own land to collect rainwater. I think it's something that's been done for centuries, and I think it ought to continue. But I think that we've had a roadblock with this permitting of the process of the ponding. So I would ask you to vote no on this, because I think this particular bill would benefit us in rural Colorado. Thank you. Senator Neville.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this amendment, the second time around, it's no better. The attack on private property, it's no better the second time around than it was the first. I would urge a no vote.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment 001? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 to Senate Bill 184. Are there any no votes? Majority Leader Holbert, Senator Priola, Senator Smallwood, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Lundberg, Senator Scott, Senator Martinez-Humenick. I got you, Senator Priola, Senator Gardner, Senator Quorum, Senator Neville, Senator Marble, Senator John, Senator Hill, Senator Crowder, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Cook, Senator Sonnenberg. Please add the President. 16 ayes, 19 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused. Committee of the Whole Amendment 1 is lost. Motion for the body is the adoption of the report to the Committee of the Whole. Are there any no votes? With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, the Committee of the Whole report is adopted. Senate Bill 116 is amended. Senate Bill 184 passed on second reading, ordered engrossed and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. House Bill 1158, House Bill 1138 is amended.
House Bill 1012 is amended. House Bill 1196 is amended. House Bill 1103 is amended. Passed on second reading, order revised and placed on the calendar for third reading and final passage. Senate Bill 43 laid over till 3/19/18 and retaining its place on the calendar. Consideration of resolutions. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title to Senate Resolution 2?
Senate Resolution 2 by Senators Holbert and Guzman concerning changes to the Senate rules regarding delivery of committee reference reports to the Secretary of the Senate and the deadline for the introduction of resolutions.
Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Resolution 2.
Is there any discussion on Senate Resolution 2? Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate Resolution 2 seeks to address a question in our existing rules. Committee chairs sign committee reports and then deliver them within a prescribed number of days. And then at the end of a session, certainly when we're in the last 3 days of a session, things accelerate. Resolution 2 proposes that we recognize the last 10 days of a session. And I am attempting, I think Leader Guzman agrees, we're attempting to strike a balance between the requirement that a committee chair sign a committee report within a prescribed number of days, then deliver it here to the floor. We may want to take up legislation on special orders, especially toward the end of the session. And it goes to the question of, does our process, our legislative process, include a pocket veto? And that's something that I love to study, and since 2002, when I first started working here at the Capitol, this has been an area of fascination for me. I enjoy learning about this. Most legislative bodies do have some form of pocket veto. Either the presiding officer or a committee chair can decide what bill gets heard or what happens to that bill. In Congress, when a bill is assigned to a committee, the chair of that committee decides whether or not the bill is heard. Here in Colorado, our Constitution requires that every bill must have a hearing. So our process is very different. If you haven't studied other states or the federal process, you may not know that, but our process is very different. So, do our committee chairs have the opportunity, a loophole, to pocket veto a bill by not signing a committee report? In conversations with Legislative Legal Services, the interpretation, the opinion is no. That the requirement of a committee chair to sign a committee report is more custodial. It is a process requirement to look, is this what happened in a committee? Are these the amendments that were adopted? Is this a true and accurate representation of that committee meeting, hearing, and does the report bear his or her signature? What Resolution 2 proposes is that, especially in the last 10 days of a session, if there is urgency to bring a bill to the floor, that the president or the majority leader could demand that report from the committee chair and say, sign it or give it to me. Sign it or give it to me. And what it would do is clarify the question of, does the committee chair have the opportunity to run out the clock? Effectively, a pocket veto by holding on to that committee report and not signing it. Resolution 2 would say, no, there is no pocket veto. And what we ask is, if the president or the majority leader requests that committee report from the chair, if there is a refusal to sign, that the committee report would come without the signature of the committee chair. That is a discussion that has taken place here in these chambers. Legal counsel has upheld, Legal Services has upheld what Resolution 2 proposes, and I would ask for your aye vote on the resolution.
There is an amendment on the desk. Mr. Carpenter, please read Amendment L002.
Amendment L002, Senate Resolution.
Regular.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Amendment L002.
To the amendment.
Thank you. Members, this resolution, this Senate resolution addresses resolutions as well. And what Amendment 2 would do is insert a new section in our rules that says that any resolution concerning action against a senator must be introduced and referred to a committee of reference or brought before the Senate for debate not later than the close of actual session on the third calendar day following deposit of the resolution with the Senate Secretary. And this would bring us in line with a rule that exists right now in the House of Representatives, and I'd ask for your support on Amendment L002.
Is there any discussion? Senator Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask a title ruling. Does this fit under the title of the resolution? And specifically to a resolution, is the single subject requirement, does it apply?
We'll be in a brief recess. Senate will come back to order. Is there any discussion on Amendment L002? Senator Aguilar.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I know we've really cracked down on resolutions this year because they can be very time-consuming and keep us from doing the work of the Senate, and I actually have appreciated that effort. And in general, this is not something I am opposed to. But I think that when we're talking about a resolution that's introduced with by a member of the legislature regarding a senator and action against a senator, that this should follow a different rule. And this is primarily because it could otherwise appear that we're trying to suppress a vote. And I think in the interest of being as open and transparent to our constituency and really as responsive to our duty as senators, I would say that we set ourselves to a standard that we cannot hide resolutions that affect the behavior of our senators and that they must be brought for debate. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Senator Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I rise in support of this amendment and ask for your, I vote, I think it's within the spirit of the overall resolution of trying to find clarity for some of our processes and procedures. I know I've had a handful of discussions with our support staff in the basement as well as the staff that helps us run this room efficiently, effectively, and fairly every day, and there is clearly confusion around the current policy on this because our specific rules refer to bills and clarified timelines with that, but it isn't as clear on resolutions. So just as we got a very good explanation of running this resolution for clarity on committee reports, this is in that same vein and gives us clarity around deadlines. Ask for your aye vote.
Is there any further discussion? Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the work of Council, Legislative Executive Committee. We are attempting to clarify our rules, and while I understand the interest of L002, it does seem to fall outside of our rules. Our procedure, I think this would merit discussion, debate as a separate rule change, ask for a no vote, because it, again, if this does insert into our rules, it seems outside the application of Senate Resolution 2 and ask for a no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Amendment L002. Are there any no votes? Majority Leader Holbert. Senator Lundberg, Senator Priola, Senator Smallwood, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Gardner, Senator Coram, Senator Neville, Senator Marvel, Senator Cook, Senator Scott, Senator Hill, Senator Crowder, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg. Please add the President. 17 ayes, 18 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused. Amendment 2 is lost. to the resolution. Senator Guzman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to say a couple of things about this. I would like, this is probably not the appropriate times, but I would like to say that at our next executive committee meetings and working with OLLS that we should, I would hope that we would bring this up for discussion, even though I agree it may not be part of this resolution request. But I think this is an issue that leaves lots of gaps in the work of our body, and would hope that we would discuss this later in the executive committee.
Any further discussion on Senate Resolution 2? Senator Lundberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm going to be voting no. And I'm going to be voting no. I'm somewhat familiar with some of the processes that are being changed here, as I was, as a committee chair, involved in some discussions on this last year, but this is the reason I'm voting no, is members who would look at this, this is my 16th year down here in the legislature, so I've watched some processes, and the fact of the matter is that sometimes bills do die at the end of deadlines, and what I see this doing is two things. One, it's tightening up those deadlines for resolutions, and it's also putting more power in the hands of the, the majority leader and the president, and less power in the hands of the chairman of the committees. And I believe it is always troublesome when we concentrate authority and power. I suspect this is going to pass, but I'm going to vote no because I don't believe it's in the best interest of the Senate.
Senator Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I won't recount the story, but as a committee chairman in the House, I actually was in one of these situations at the very end of the legislative session on a bill that was heard in my committee, which I chaired. I did not, for various reasons, primarily respect for the process, did not exercise a pocket veto, but I certainly could have. And as my friend and colleague from Berthoud notes, we are committee chairs for a reason, and this bill is only operative in its own way in the last days of the session, and things come in the last days of the session for reasons of controversy, reasons of being introduced late, all sorts of things. This dilutes the power of chairs, and I suspect, as my colleague said earlier, that it will pass. You know, had it happened with the adoption of the rules at the beginning of the 71st General Assembly, it might have even just happened. But we are now mid-session, literally mid-session, changing a rule, which just causes my antenna to go up and it causes me to ask, why are we changing this rule? Why are we changing it now? What is the evil we're trying to get at? What is someone wanting to do, and why did the discussion even come up? It causes me as a committee chair and someone who's actually been in the situation to say that I will be a no vote. I'm not beyond the discussion. I think there's a good discussion to be had here, but having it mid-session strikes me as premature. I'll ask for a no vote.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I urge an aye vote, members. I appreciate the majority leader working on finding ways to have bills, resolutions get hearings. I suffered the Rules Committee long ago where I had a bill go and it wasn't even ever scheduled, and that what started the push for gavel, which I was part of, and it changed constitutionally that every bill has to have a hearing. So I support it from that level to make sure that it gets done in a timely way and we can consider it, because everybody knows what it's like around here in the final 10 days, final 3 days. It's really busy, and the last thing we want is to have something scheduled late in the evening after we've been to the burrito bar. You know what I'm talking about, where it's late at night here, and we have one more thing where we could have moved it out to 10 days instead of the 3 days. So I asked for a yes vote on this. There's a second part of this which is clarified. On page 3, you go to 20 to 30 legislative days. Apparently we did a joint rule in 2013 that did that, so the resolution deadline got moved 30 days out, and we just haven't conformed to it. The House has. So I asked for a yes vote.
Is there any further discussion on Senate Resolution 2? Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, there was another question. I appreciate the good senator from Louisville in his expression of support. If you look at page 3, changing the time frame of 20 to 30 legislative days as required by Joint Rule 23, as I understand, 5 years ago, the legislature did adopt that new joint rule, and we've had inconsistency in this time frame. The joint rule, the House rule is 30 days, but we've had this legacy of 20 days. So that is also in this resolution. I appreciate the good senator asking the question and staff clarifying. This would bring alignment, consistency between the rules. Ask for your aye vote on Senate Resolution 2.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion before the body is the adoption of Senate Resolution 2. Are there any no votes? Senator Hill, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Neville, Senator Lundberg, Senator Gardner, Senator Cook, Senator Marble, Senator Coram, Senator Smallwood, Senator Tate, Senator Lambert, Senator Scott, Senator John. With 20, Senator Martinez-Humenick. With 20 ayes, 15 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Resolution 2 is adopted. Co-sponsors. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read the title of the Senate Joint Resolution 8?
Senate Joint Resolution 8 by Senators Holbert and Guzman, Representative Becker, Kay, and Neville, concerning a change to Rule 24A of the Joint Rules of the Senate and House of Representatives to permit electronic participation in committee meetings during the legislative interim.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move Senate Joint Resolution 8. Members, this resolution is the next step in allowing us, you, to participate in electronic interim committee meetings. If you look at our current rules, you are not allowed to participate electronically in interim committee meetings. And there's three different, Mr. President, there's 3 different places that you need to look to find where we are relative to Rule 24. If you look at our rules, it says that you are not allowed to participate in interim committee meetings electronically. However, if you look at the policy that was distributed to you earlier, we are evolving toward allowing you to do that. And that's what Senate Joint Resolution 8 will do. If Senate Joint Resolution 8 is adopted, you will be allowed to participate in interim committees via electronic means, but you will not be allowed to vote. And that, again, this was distributed to you earlier, may not vote. The committee needs an in-person quorum to vote on any measure. So this does not change the quorum requirements for live participation, and we would encourage, if this passes, that committee members who wish to participate electronically clear that with the chair of that committee before to make sure that there would be a quorum requirement met. And then, again, you would not be able to vote, but you would be able to converse with people, have dialogue, and participate in that meeting. This is, again, something that we have worked on between the two chambers, leadership of both chambers, and ask for your aye vote of Senate Joint Resolution 8.
Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, members, I asked for a no vote on this, and here's my reasoning. We may be going down this path for interim committee, and we got the thing on our desk that explained where we are. But this amendment says meetings to the extent authorized by the executive committee and subject to any policies that the executive committee develops pursuant to the section in the Colorado Revised Statutes. This gives up all our power as other members beyond the executive committee. I think we should prescribe in this amendment what the situation is currently and not leave it open-ended, because the three people could meet and say, okay, everything's electronic in interim committees. You don't have to, you can vote remotely. You don't have to have a quorum on site. So that's why I don't like it. If you want to prescribe exactly what was decided, fine, but otherwise, this makes it so that none of us, except through lobbying the executive committee, can have a change in a policy that we've agreed to somewhat reluctantly, some of us, just because we know times are changing. But there is so much power in having people together because, as we know, and the studies show, communication is largely nonverbal. And I think it degrades the hearing to some degree, but regardless of how you feel about that, I don't think the executive committee should be the sole decision maker on changing to 100% electronic, so I ask for a no vote.
Senator Sonnenberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also have concerns about this and what we're doing within the rules in mid-session here. Currently, we chairman can make a decision of these interim committees whether or not a person can participate or not through this process. As I look at this from Ms. Eubanks, the first bullet says up to 2 members of any committee may be approved to participate remotely. If 3 ask, who chooses which 2 get to participate remotely? I've had a policy to not allow remote participation because you can't interact, you can't have that conversation when you have the question come up. I think if we're here to do our job, we can listen online as a legislator if you want to listen to a committee hearing. But to participate, I think, raises questions on what we're trying to accomplish. Yes, you may not vote, so what is the purpose? Why would we change this rule? Why would we give the executive committee more authority to be able to tell us how to run our committees? I hate disagreeing with my leadership, but we never had this discussion, and I ask for your no vote.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion for the body is the adoption of Senate Joint Resolution 8. Being a joint rule, it requires a 2/3 vote. Are there any no votes? Senator Jones, Senator Donovan, Senator Zenzinger, Senator Kagan, Senator Fields, Senator Aguilar, Senator Williams, Senator Garcia, Senator Todd, Senator Merrifield, Senator John, Senator Cook, Senator Crowder, Senator Coram, Senator Baumgardner, Senator Sonnenberg, Senator Gardner, Senator Martinez-Humenick, Senator Lundberg, Senator Lambert, Senator Kafalas, Senator Marble. In a real squeaker with 13 ayes, 22 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, Senate Joint Resolution 8 fails. Consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. Mr. Carpenter, would you please read all the appointments on the governor's appointments consent calendar?
Members of the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund for terms expiring April 15, 2021. Holly Jean Velasquez, Horvath of Denver, Colorado, Democrat and resident of the 1st Congressional District, reappointed. Linda Jean Strand of Aurora, Colorado, Democrat and resident of the 6th Congressional District, reappointed. Warren Hall Dean of Colorado Springs, Colorado, Democrat and resident of the 5th Congressional District, appointed. Member of the Colorado Racing Commission for term expiring July 1st, 2021. Pam Oldham Inman of the Castle Rock, Colorado, and resident of the 4th Congressional District, who has been engaged in business in a management level capacity for at least 5 years, reappointed.
Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the appointments listed on the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar, including members of the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund and member of the Colorado Racing Commission.
Is there any discussion on any of the appointments on the consent calendar? Are there any no votes on any of the appointments on the consent calendar? The motion for the body is the adoption or the appointments on the consideration of governor's appointments consent calendar. All those in favor say aye. Or actually, are these?
Are there any no votes? But you already said that.
With 35 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent, 0 excused, that motion is adopted. Following members are appointed to the State Board of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund, Holly Jean Velasquez Horvath, Linda Jean Strand, Warren Hall Dean. And to the Colorado Racing Commission, Pam Oldham Inman. Delivery to the governor.
To the governor for signature on Friday, March 12, 2018 at 4:15 p.m. Senate Bill 9, 20, 36, 46, 91, 92, 93, 94, 96, 100, 101, 103, and 164.
Committee reports.
March 13, 2018, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee, following Senate Bill 195, be referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 13, 2018, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee, following Senate Bill 119, be amended as follows as submitted, be referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation placed on the consent calendar. March 13, 2018, Committee on Appropriations. After consideration of the Mayor's Committee following Senate Bill 47, be amended as follows as submitted, be referred to committee to hold the favorable recommendation.
Message from the House.
The House has passed in third reading and transmitted advisory statutes. House Bill 1242, 1240. The House has passed in third reading and transmitted advisory statutes. House Bill 1154, amended as printed in the House Journal, March 12, 2018. The House has passed in third reading and returns here with Senate Bill 28. The House has adopted the first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1171 is printed in the House Journal, March 9, 2018, and has repassed the bill as amended.
Message from the reviser.
We herewith transmit without comment House Bill 1240 and 1242 without comment as amended. House Bill 1154.
Signing of bills.
The President has signed House Bill 1028, 1086, 1100, 1101, and 1140.
Announcements. Senator Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For all the colleagues who could not keep their hands off of Holly the arson dog, the owner or the handler gave me a stack of cards. And if you want one, please come get one because I'm not going to sure what I'm going to do with 20 of them. So if you'd like one, come see me or take it off my desk.
Thank you, Senator Cook, and you can leave your $5 donation with the Secretary of the Senate. For saying, Mr. Chair. Senator Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to request a moment of personal privilege.
Granted.
Thank you. Members, I want to talk to you about sexual harassment in the workplace here. Tell you a story, read a story to you, talk about our rules, and bring it home to how we are in our normal everyday lives. I spent some of my Friday the afternoon that Representative Lebsack was expelled watching on the House floor. And it was a bipartisan expulsion. And it was one of the most dramatic things I've ever, well, probably the most dramatic thing I've ever seen on the floor of the House. And there's a good reason for that. This is a very, very serious matter. So let me read you a story of one of the survivors of the Lebsack situation that was found credible in what she said by an outside investigator, just like is the case in the state Senate. I am a survivor of sexual assault as a child and an adult. I spent most of my career dealing with sexual harassment with little consequences, causing many negative impacts during my work career. The sexual harassment that has gone on at the Capitol has caused significant negative impacts on my ability to participate in the democratic process. I have not gotten into the elevator when known sexual harassers were on them. I have left the cafeteria when known sexual harassers have sat down next to me. The level of anxiety is very high every time I enter the Capitol. I will not attend or testify in committee hearings on legislation where known sexual harassers are members of the committee. I will not testify on legislation that is being sponsored by known sexual harassers to avoid sitting next to them. I will not call to discuss legislation and my support and concern with legislators that are known sexual harassers. The lack of action on this matter and no consequences for known sexual harassers has created a hostile environment for me as a private citizen, causing me to feel unsafe and need to be on alert all the time, worried about who is near me. I tried to discuss this with my senator and was attacked verbally by him. The situation must be dealt with, and our Capitol should be an environment that is conducive to the citizens of Colorado so that they feel safe and comfortable participating in the democratic process. I appreciate everybody's attention on this. This is important. We all deserve a safe Capitol. The Gold Dome should be a beacon and shining example of how everyone should be treated. Currently, the example is that the behavior is okay. And as a survivor, it is time to take a stand against sexual assault in all of its forms and lead the way in eliminating the culture of sexual assault and harassment from Colorado. Now, members, we take our rules seriously. We just debated 2 of them. It's a big deal to change the rules. If you look at the rule book, not much changes in there. And that's because we follow them very closely. And when somebody thinks that we're not following them, you get called on the carpet. Even my speaking right now is part of the rules. And I want you to hear what personal privilege is all about. And it will change how you think about it, I think. Questions of personal privilege shall be first, those affecting the rights of the Senate, collectively, its safety, dignity, and integrity of its proceedings. That's exactly what we're talking about here. Second, the rights, reputation, and conduct of members individually in their senatorial capacity only. And then the third thing is public affairs. And that's what we usually do this when we use personal privilege, it's the public affair thing. But the ones that are circumscribed in first have to do with the integrity of this body. So I'm going to read you the rule that Representative Wist read several times in the House hearing and how he got to a yes vote on this. for sexual harassment. For purposes of the joint rule, and it is a joint rule, we abide by the same rule as the House here, unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature constitute sexual harassment when, and two of these directly apply, I'll read those two. Submission of such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly in terms of condition of an individual employment. I want you to think about that. The position people are in this body working for us. The second one is such conduct has the purpose or effect of unreasonably interfering with the individual's work performance or creating an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. And again, Representative Wist read those lines several times because those were his touchstones about how to vote on the expulsion of Representative Lebsack that did occur. Now, members, we take these allegations seriously. That's why I'm glad we had a third-party investigator look at this issue having to do with the Senate, and it was found credible. It's the same standard as they found in the House, and it's the same standard that's used in private business. And we've heard this many times before. We like to talk a lot about how businesses operate and how we should be more like a business. People with credible information like this would be fired. Now, this notion of saying it should go to a court and be proven, I don't get at all. We follow our rules, just like businesses do, and that's the standard we set, and that's what we live up to, and we have a higher standard here. My dad was my principal once when I was in elementary school at in my school in Laramie. And he used to come home and shake his finger at me when I get in trouble. I get the double whammy. He said, "You have a higher standard, Matt." Well, we have a higher standard, members. And this is the standard we've set. It's in the rules, and we need to follow it. And we need to have that conversation about expulsion just like the House did, and did it on a bipartisan fashion, in a bipartisan way. Let me bring this home. How many of you have children? Judging from the age of this body, almost everybody in here has had children, maybe even grandchildren. My wife and I are blessed to have our daughter move back. She's in her 20s. And I want you to put yourself in the shoes of your child, whether it be male or female. And I want you to think about what, if you heard that they were getting slapped on the butt, what you would think. I'd be outraged. And it'd be worse yet that it's this body, the Senate, of the state of Colorado setting that example and not taking appropriate action. We need to do that. We owe it to our kids and your grandkids. We should set the example of what's okay here. And I'm asking you to do that. Stand up, just like that bipartisan vote in the House. You know, they didn't know the vote on that thing going in. It looked like it was going to be a partisan vote, perhaps. And I got to give it to Representative Wist, Sias. People went to the mic and thought it through and said, this was what makes sense, we should expel. So for this reason, we, the members of the Senate Democratic Caucus, ask that the Senate resolution we prepared and submitted for introduction on February 13th, 2018, entitled Concerning the Expulsion of Senator from Northwestern Colorado for Sexual Harassment of a Legislative Employee, be promptly introduced and brought to the floor of the Senate for debate. We should do that for our children, at the least.
Any further announcements? Senator Lambert.
With the schedule change, the Joint Budget Committee will meet at 2 o'clock today.
Any further announcements? Majority Leader Holbert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, March 14th.
Motion is for the Senate to adjourn until 9 a.m. Wednesday, March 14th. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the Senate will be adjourned.